Submachine guns of World War II, selected weapons of close quarters. Combat World War II transformed infantry warfare, and the submachine gun became one of its defining weapons. Designed for short-range firepower, these compact automatic arms proved decisive in cities, jungles, trenches, and armored assaults. Type 100, Japan. The Type 100 was Japan's first domestically produced submachine gun. Introduced in 1942, it fired the 8x22mm Nambu cartridge and was intended primarily for paratroopers and special naval units. Early versions featured a bayonet lug, reflecting Japanese infantry doctrine. Production was limited, and the weapon saw only restricted use due to Japan's focus on rifles and machine guns over SMGs. Type 1, Japan. The Type 1 was an experimental Japanese submachine gun influenced by German designs, particularly the MP28. Chambered in 9x19mm parabellum, it was intended for use with German-supplied ammunition. Only a small number were produced, and it never entered widespread service, but it represents Japan's early attempts to modernize close combat weaponry. Thompson M1928, United States. The Thompson M1928 was one of the most recognizable submachine guns of World War II. Originally developed in the interwar period, it fired the powerful .45 ACP cartridge. Known for its weight, reliability, and controllability, the M1928 could use both box and drum magazines. It was widely used by American forces early in the war and supplied to Allied nations through Lend-Lease. Suomi KP-31, Finland. The Suomi KP-31 gained fame during the Winter War against the Soviet Union. Chambered in 9x19mm, it was exceptionally accurate and well-made. Its high-capacity drum magazine influenced later designs, including the Soviet PPSH-41. Though expensive to produce, it proved devastating in forest and urban combat. Sten Mk I, United Kingdom. The Sten Mk I was Britain's emergency response to the threat of invasion after 1940. Designed for rapid, low-cost production, it fired 9x19mm ammunition and used a simple open-bolt system. Although crude and sometimes unreliable, it could be manufactured quickly and issued in large numbers. It played a key role in arming British forces and resistance fighters. PPSH-41, Soviet Union. The PPSH-41 became the most mass-produced submachine gun of World War II. Chambered in 7.62 by 25mm Tokarev, it featured a very high rate of fire and commonly used a 71-round drum magazine. Its simplicity, durability, and effectiveness in close combat made it a symbol of Soviet infantry power. Captured examples were widely used by German troops. PPS-42, Soviet Union. Developed during the Siege of Leningrad, the PPS-42 was a compact and lightweight submachine gun made from stamped steel. It retained the 7.62 by 25mm cartridge, but was easier to manufacture and more suitable for tank crews and assault troops. Though produced in limited numbers, it paved the way for improved designs. PPD-34, Soviet Union. The PPD-34 was one of the Soviet Union's earliest submachine guns. Chambered in 7.62 by 25mm, it was complex and costly to produce, limiting its distribution. Early versions used box magazines, later adapted to drums. Combat experience with the PPD-34 highlighted the need for simpler mass-production designs, directly influencing later Soviet SMGs, MP-3008, Germany. The MP-3008 was a late-war German emergency weapon produced during the final months of the conflict. Based heavily on the British Sten It fired 9 by 19 mm ammunition and was made using minimal machining. Issued primarily to Volkssturm units, it reflected Germany's desperate industrial situation at the end of the war. MP-41, Germany. The MP-41 combined the action of the MP-40 with a traditional wooden stock. Chambered in 9 by 19 mm, it was produced in limited numbers and issued mainly to police and rear area units. Though reliable, it was overshadowed by the standard MP-40. MP-40, Germany. The MP-40 became the iconic German submachine gun of World War II. Using stamped steel construction and a folding metal stock, it was designed for mechanized and airborne troops. Chambered in 9 by 19 mm, it was controllable, reliable, and widely issued across all fronts. MP-38, Germany. The MP-38 was the MP-40's predecessor and Germany's first widely adopted modern SMG. It featured more machined parts and better finish than later models. Issued primarily to paratroopers and armored crews, it laid the foundation for mass-produced German SMGs. MP-18, Germany. Originally developed during World War I, the MP-18 continued limited service into World War II with police and second-line units. Chambered in 9 by 19 mm, it represents the origin of practical submachine gun design and influenced nearly every SMG that followed. MAS 38, France. The MAS 38 was a compact French submachine gun chambered in 7.65 by 20 mm long. Known for its accuracy and low recoil, it was issued in limited numbers before France's defeat in 1940. Many were later used by German occupation forces. MAB-38, Italy. The MAB-38, also known as the Beretta Model 38, was one of the highest quality submachine guns of the war. Chambered in 9 by 19 mm, it was accurate, reliable, and well-crafted. Used by Italian forces and later by German units, it earned an excellent combat reputation. Beretta Model 38, Italy. The Beretta Model 38 series encompassed several variants, including simplified wartime models. Its solid construction and effective firepower made it a preferred weapon among Axis troops. Despite its cost, it remained in production throughout the war. M3, United States. The M3 submachine gun, nicknamed the Grease Gun, was designed as a cheap replacement for the Thompson. Chambered in 45 ACP, it featured a slow rate of fire and stamped steel construction. Though less refined, it was durable and effective, particularly in armored units. Lanchester Submachine Gun, United Kingdom. The Lanchester was based on the German MP-28 and produced early in the war. Chambered in 9 by 19 mm, it was heavy, accurate, and well-finished. Primarily issued to the Royal Navy and RAF ground crews, it was soon replaced by simpler designs like the Sten Gustaf M45, Sweden. The Gustaf M45 was developed at the end of World War II and saw limited wartime relevance. Chambered in 9 by 19 mm, it featured a simple, robust design that would later see extensive post-war service worldwide. Its inclusion reflects the transition from wartime SMGs to Cold War designs. ERMA EMP-35, Germany. The ERMA EMP-35 was an interwar German submachine gun used by police and early military units. Chambered in 9 by 19 mm, it featured a wooden stock and high-quality machining. Though largely obsolete by mid-war, it remained in limited service. These submachine guns illustrate the diversity of World War II small arms design. From finely machined early models to crude emergency weapons, each reflected the industrial capacity, doctrine, and desperation of the nation that produced it. Together, they shaped close-quarters combat and left a lasting impact on modern infantry weapons.